Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are making it a great day. I am Brian, the life changer, and you are about to have your life changed. Whether you're having a bad day, a good day, or maybe you're just starting your day. My passion is to have a positive impact in your life. This podcast is called Unlock the Power of Your Mind. It is designed to help you harness your inner greatness and inspire you to be the best version of you possible. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope this helps to change your life. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining me for another episode of Unlock the Power of Your Mind. Today, I am super excited to have with us Dr. Chris Zaino. He is the creator of I Am Hero, helping resurrect heroes out of the complacency of their secret identity. Dr. Zaino is a Mr. America winner. He's a speaker, an author, and founder of one of the largest health and wellness clinics in the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, without a doubt, this is an individual that is going to share some very unique perspective and change a lot of lives in our conversation. So, Dr. Zaino, thank you so much for your time. How are you today?
Thank you so much, Ryan, and thank you for everybody who's listening. This is going to really bring a lot of value, so I appreciate you having me on and being here for you guys.
Awesome. So let's change some lives together. Share with the listeners first, who is Chris Zaino as a human being?
Well, I'll just start with my purpose statement. My purpose statement is I resurrect heroes out of the complacency of their secret identity so they can live heroic lives once again by expressing and experiencing true love right now in every single area of their lives. And to break that down, sometimes the love word throws people off, but when I mean love, I mean unconditional appreciation, because love tends to have a lot of baggage. So let's look at it that way, that I could unconditionally appreciate now and not live in this life saying, well, when I check off this box or that box, or lead a conditional life, right? Because I found out, and that's really how the whole I Am Hero project was started, is what happens when you do check off the boxes. What happens when you do get to the end of the rat race and you said, I did it, I checked it all off, but why am I feeling unfulfilled? Why am I feeling depressed? Why am I feeling numb? And it's because you were living a conditional life. Now realizing that once you check off boxes, there's going to be 100 other boxes, and we're constantly created to expand, evolve, and grow. That's what we do. That's what a human being does. You're a spiritual being in a physical body on a journey, and it's not to reach a destination. You never get it done. And I think a lot of people are suffering with anxiety and depression and even health issues just because they're not really looking at right now. Like right now when I'm speaking to you guys, there's no better else or other place I would want to be. Like I unconditionally appreciate Ryan, what he's done, his mission, his passion, his purpose. And every single person that's listening, I appreciate you. Why? Because it's your time. You're giving me your greatest commodity, which is your time. You can never recreate it again or add to it. And so I love that. I think that's amazing. And I want to make sure that what you hear today in this conversation, this interview, will do something to steer your life or to shake you up. Even if you're listening to this 10 years after we recorded this, I want someone to really say that this was the exact thing they needed to hear at this time.
Awesome. My alignment is with you 100%. So that the listeners can feel a little bit more connected with you, Dr. Zaino. Explain a little bit briefly about what your early childhood was like. I know you and I are in the tri-state area. Were you born and raised in this area? Share with the listeners that aspect of your early childhood.
So I was born in New York, and my parents are awesome. So they were together and they ran their own business. And I had two parents who never graduated high school. So they were both taken out. My dad went to the Air Force, but, they really worked hard. They were entrepreneurs. They had a video business in the 70s, and they really got out of what they considered poverty into a strong middle class. So it was great to see my parents work together, and I always, truly admired that. My dad died when I was 21. But before that, after about 12 years old, we moved to Florida, because that's what New Yorkers do. They go to Florida, so we ended up in Sarasota, Florida. And there I saw my dad just kind of go into a depression because, he had this video business. And there was a point where you had to hire somebody to do your video, right? And then they had these huge cameras and these huge batteries and these huge recorders. And it was really a pro job. And then when camcorders started to come out and how you could edit things on your computer, it literally made my dad a dinosaur. He didn't, your uncle could shoot your wedding. My dad wasn't needed. So he fell into a depression because he really found his identity in that, and he didn't know what else to do. I really believe that's why cancer, took over his body. And so in 1990, I believe it was 1999, it was when he died. I was 21. It was right after I won the Mr. America as well. So it was just a tough time. I hated seeing him go through that. But I went to college. I went to Florida State for a little bit. I went to University of Central Florida for a little bit. And that was a cool time because I had won the Mr. America, and I was a personal trainer. I had my degree in exercise physiology. And I got to work with actors like Zaino. Everybody remembers Xena Warrior Princess if they're over 30, and Hercules, and they filmed a lot of their work in their shows at Universal Studios Florida. So I got to be the trainer for those actors to get them into shape. Wrote for magazines, covered magazines. So my identity at that point was, how you look, how you feel. I look good, I felt good, covered magazines. Almost self-righteous that I ate right, I exercised, that whole thing. And then a couple years later, about 26 now, I married my wife. And 6 months into our marriage, I just started going to the bathroom a lot, no big deal. Then I was starting to bleed every time I went to the bathroom. And that freaked me out, right? And so I didn't know what was going on. And then I looked up blood and stool, and the first thing that pops up on Google is cancer. So I'm thinking, wow, my dad had cancer. My grandfather died before I was born. And then I just disassociated from it. I didn't go into denial. I ran away from it. And even though I know that wouldn't work, that wouldn't help because things just got worse, but sometimes you just don't know what to do. And you disassociate. And I got worse and worse. And then it got to the point where I'm going to the bathroom 15, 16, 17 times a day. It's blood and mucus, all this stuff. And it got to the point where I lost my bowels in public one day in a department store because the bathrooms were locked. This physical problem became like an emotional, spiritual issue as well. And that's the day my wife found out because I hid it really well. And I was diagnosed with an incurable terminal disease called ulcerative colitis. And that's a disease where your immune system is eating and attacking yourself. And they put me on all these crazy drugs. And the drugs gave me more side effects and maybe even worse. And then fast forward 4 months, I went from 230 pounds to about 158 pounds. And I found myself with the only option of doing surgery. And the surgery would be taking out my colon, and I would have a colostomy bag for the rest of my life. They told me I was sterile from the drugs. And the autoimmune drugs they gave me, they said, we don't even know if you'll get through the surgery because you're on immunosuppressants. And if we take out your colon, there's no chance that some bacteria won't get loose. So they didn't know if I would make it through the surgery or if I would be in ICU for months, if not a year. That's how ridiculous it was. And that was the moment, with about a week before surgery, my mom sends out this prayer email, and everybody wished the surgery was going well. But then my anatomy teacher from my sophomore year in high school says, listen, I want to see Chris when he gets into town. So when I was into town to see my mom, that was the one person in my life, or on that hero's journey, there's a helper, so to speak, and that was the helper that kind of led me and started changing everything around for me. So I'll stop there if you want to dig in any further.
Yeah. Wow. Extremely, extremely powerful. So let's take it back to your dad. What was one of the biggest things that you learned from your father, where today maybe it's either in your personal life or your professional life where you take a step back and you say, wow, I learned that from my dad?
Oh, he was always end result counts. Always end result counts. Even if he got kicked in the face or punched in the face metaphorically, even when my mom's like, that guy's screwing you over, my dad would be like, I know, but it's the end result that counts. My dad would take an ass kicking as long as it got him to the end result, if he needed to. I remember he had an oil burner business, or he would just bring oil, oil trucks to different places. And some people that were working for him were stealing oil. My mom's like, they're stealing oil. He's like, I know, but they're good workers, and it's just the end result. Like, so my dad, that he was always an end result guy, so he would take the short end of the stick if need be. He wouldn't complain about it, but he would do what it takes. And I'm not saying that I learned to be taken advantage of. He didn't You never like that. But it's one thing to keep your cool, knowing what's going on, but knowing that the job had to be done, whether it was in the exact way you wanted to, or maybe a little bit more difficult. So I would definitely say my dad was the end result is what matters. You there?
Awesome.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, I apologize. I apologize about that. There was some background noise on my end. So, it takes a special kind of person and a special kind of patience to be able to take a step back, even in the chaos, and still be able to keep the vision on that end goal and where it ultimately is that you want to go. So it sounds like that's kind of what you were able to take away from your dad.
Oh, 1,000,000%, man. Because it's very easy to start to complain, say, well, things aren't working out because of this or that or this circumstance or this. But when you realize, well, if the end result is the only thing that counts, and yes, it might have took that person a lot less time to get to that end goal, or it might have seemed a lot easier for that person to get that end goal. It didn't matter point A, it mattered point B. So if I had to work 10 times as harder, and if it took 10 times as longer, but as long as that last and if the end result was what we needed, it'd be worth it. And that kind of what helped me in my life is knowing that some things didn't happen as quick. So for someone who's listening right now, you might be like, wow, my goal or my dream or my vision, or I'm frustrated, it's not happening as fast for you. Yeah, I get it. And it might just be like you need more time and you need more work. But the thing is, you always have the end goal knowing, hey, listen, no matter how much time, money, effort I need to put in, that end goal has to be strong enough where it makes it worth it versus quitting.
You talk about end vision versus the plan, and so that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, and I think now I know the catalyst for that, or maybe part of that. Share with the listeners what that means about not getting burdened so much by the plan and staying focused on that end vision.
Because there's so many unknowns that go on. It's so easy for us to say, this is the plan. This is going to happen, then I'm going to do this, this, and then boom, I'll be there. And for some things, it's really good to have a plan, but what about all the unknowns? We were trained, through teachers and preachers and dogmas in society, that we were trained to stay certain. We were trained never to take a risk, to stay away from the unknowns, because that's the way we were raised. First grade, second grade, third grade. We always had the next step. Fourth grade, fifth grade, say college, go on and on, get a career, get married, get a dog, get kids, all these things. So we always society always gave us this next phase to keep us certain. And it's a great way to keep you controllable. And it's also a great way to miss out on the opportunities. So what I mean by the end goal is there. Here's the end goal. That's the vision. And you have a plan, but you got to be able to course correct that plan because it's all the unknowns. Now, in the unknowns, for instance, so Ryan and I are talking right now, and I would guarantee 100% there are so many unknowns that happen for us to be on this interview right now. We never planned it. We never, right, Ryan? We didn't plan it. Just like we met each other, we reached out, like it was just back and forth. I did a podcast with Sean, and I saw he was on yours. I'm like, holy smoke. I go, and I had seen your stuff before on Instagram, right? I mean, what's the chance of that? There's millions of posts a day on Instagram, right? So just think of all the freaky unknowns that had to happen serendipitously for us to be on this interview right now. And then I'm sure we'll continue this relationship and help each other. Like, it's just an amazing thing. So when I look back at my life, and anybody listening, you can look back on your life and there's things that happen, perceived good things, perceived bad things that sent you on this journey of unknowns. It just, and then you look back, only looking back, and you see, wow, the chain of effect. Wow, I'm glad that happened. Like I remember one of my schools, for instance, how about this? One of my colleges I went to, my graduate school, they lose their accreditation. The school shuts down. I have 40 grand worth of student loans in there. This is just an example, guys. I have to lose that. I have to transfer out of schools. Now, I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and that was just a cool place, right? So I wound up going to Dallas, Texas. I'm from New York, guys. There's no friggin' way I even want to end up in Texas because it's just not my culture. And that was the last place I wanted to be. I would never go to Dallas, but this school had a great accreditation, and I wanted to finish my schooling, right? End result. So I go there. I lost the $40,000 of student loans that I'm paying interest on. And I went to this school in Dallas, Texas. And within 4 weeks later, I meet my wife. All right. So it's like, so when you look at all these amazing things, like my school, when I could say, wow, my school lost their accreditation, woe is me. It's like, I went on this journey of unknowns and I realized in the unknown, and please, if you get anything out of this interview, understand that in the unknown, in the unknowns, the things you don't know yet, that's where the opportunity is. That's where the relationship is. That's where the friendship is. That's where the most amazing ideas are. That's where the gold is for you. For a lot of people out there, you might say that's where God is. It's like in the unknowns is really where what I say, it's the nutrients of your dream, the nutrients of the next act of your life. Because if we're certain we live every day the same way, it's a Groundhog Day, but the unknowns is the only thing that will provide the nutrients and the resources and the opportunities and the relationships that will take you to a level that you never dreamed of. And here I am today with a life that's so blessed in every way, shape, or form. I never would have imagined it. And it was because of those unknowns. So that's why I say you focus on the vision. But listen, sometimes you got to break your own plans because there's an unknown that might come by and you see it and you feel good about it and you take it and you go on this magic carpet ride that will take you to places or put you through an experience. I was telling you about when I was sick, right? That was an experience. I didn't have a disease. I don't claim that. It was not a disease. It was an experience that was one of the greatest teachers of my life. So when you start to see as nothing is bad, it's just an experience of contrast. It helps you clarify that vision even more. So that's why, you could have a plan. You could start off with a plan. That's good. Have that vision and allow the vision to be the lighthouse for when you are going through a rough time right now. Always look, where's that lighthouse? Where's that lighthouse? And allow that to guide you where you need to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And those unknowns are dots that it's very difficult to connect looking forward. But when we look back, we say, so that's why that happened for me, not to me. Now I can connect those dots. So I'm with you 100%. Let's talk about this wellness struggle that you faced in your personal life, because people are going to see you on Instagram and say, well, there's this good looking jack guy, like he must have always been that way. They don't understand or maybe didn't know about that aspect of your life that you had to overcome. So what's going through your mind? Because a lot of the listeners maybe have been there in their own personal life with maybe a different type of wellness battle or struggle, but they're facing their own. What was going through your mind when you were in that department store and the bathroom is locked? Like, are you thinking, oh no, now everybody is, now my wife is going to find out, or now I have to face reality?
Oh yeah, it was. I remember standing there with people horrified because, listen, when you lose your bowels in public, most of you guys get away with that. But when you see blood seeping through someone's jeans, that scares the hell out of people. And I remember just standing there because here, and you're so right, Ryan. Whether you are facing something in your finances, your relationship, your business, or your health, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow disease process in any area. It's a recipe that you're living of disaster that you didn't realize. There's blind spots. And it gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse. And then you find yourself, like me, in a department store, losing my bowels in public, standing there, literally thinking to myself, what the hell has become of me? Like, what happened to me? Like, I don't get this. I don't like, because I didn't know the cause, but we always know there's a cause. And I was like, oh, so it was just a really low point. And it was one of many, because now when that happened, it happened many times after that because I just, you were defeated. And of course, and I go through this thing. I'm scared. I'm stripped of everything. I really like everything I was known for. My entire identity was broken, and I didn't know what to do, Ryan.
And so then I'm assuming there's a hospital visit or an emergency room visit. I mean, how were you eventually diagnosed? And then obviously you go through that extremely difficult physical, emotional, and mental identity of losing that weight, going from 230 pounds to 158 pounds. What was your mindset during that time? Because looking back, it's easy to say, okay, I understand why this happened to me. But while you're going through it, and for the listeners that are going through a difficult time right now, maybe it's not so easy for them to understand it. So I appreciate your vulnerability. Share what was going through your mind at that point.
Oh yeah, I'm diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and I'm sitting here shaking my fist at my creator, going, "Well, I don't get it. because, I'm not lining up at Sonic or Burger King every morning for breakfast. Like everything, everything that you would think health-wise would make you sick, I didn't do. So why is someone who's lining up at McDonald's for breakfast, and this is not a McDonald's, you follow my heart here. It's like there's people that were doing things, we're not even putting their health in in any aspect of respect in their life, and yet they were doing way better than me. So it was frustrated for sure. I wish I could tell you had this positive mental attitude. No, I was scared. I was worried. I was defeated. I was I was sick, and I didn't feel good. And I'm taking drugs, and these drugs just made me worse. It got me addicted to other drugs that I had to take to counteract these drugs. So then I started to lose hope, because here I'm going to the only people I think could help, which is the medical profession. And they just kept on pouring more drugs at me, and it wasn't working. So then you start to realize, wait a second, this method is not helping. And then now you really start getting scared, right? And it got worse and worse. And that was a very, very frightening 3 to 4 months for sure. And then you don't realize you become a victim, and you lose, and you become hopeless, but you don't realize it until someone questions it, or someone asks for help and you don't take it. Like, it's, again, hopelessness and becoming a victim. It's almost like a disease process where you don't realize, you tell yourself, well, there's no hope, or this is the way it's going to be. And you start to really settle, and it's like, cause like Ryan, the whole vibration of who you are, it goes down because you're living in fear, scarcity, and due to the money, poverty. So put anybody in a fear, scarcity, or poverty mentality over a prolonged period of time, you could take the greatest champion in the world and you could reduce him to nothing. So I was scared.
Here's what is truly inspiring about you, Dr. Zaino. Yes, what obviously you've been able to accomplish at this point in your life, and I Am Hero and all that you've created, that's incredible. What I think really is inspirational is the fact that if somebody was to see you now, they would never know that this is what you had to overcome to get to where you were. Because there's so many people that could have said, that's it, I give up. Okay, I'm never going to go back to the gym. I'm never going to be able to get back into the health and wellness field. Heck, maybe people would not want to ever step foot in the health and wellness field again, let alone make it their profession. So this is what I think is so inspirational about you. Not just the level that you've come to where you're at now, but how you were able to overcome such a difficult low point. So share with the listeners what that process was like as you start to work out of this and get back to that higher vibrational self of you.
Right. So that goes back to my anatomy teacher. So he comes over my house. He's like, hey, Chris, I want you to go see my doctor. Watch this, guys. He's a corrective care chiropractor. It's going to change your life. Very nonchalantly. And remember, I went to the best in the country for digestive disease. I was at Baylor Medical, hundreds of thousands in debt, did every test you could think of. And some guy's telling me, go visit this guy whose office is in his home, like a home office. And it was one of those, I'm like, hey, thanks so much. I appreciate you. Because people are caring. They want to say, hey, try this jungle juice or try this MLM thing, right? It felt like that. I'm like, thank you, but I appreciate it. I go, but I tried everything. No thanks. And then I said the words, I tried everything. Then he comes back at me immediately. And I say this to everybody who's listening right now, who's going through a tough time, who feel like you lost hope. And he goes, well, you didn't try everything, because if you tried everything, you would have had your health. Or for those of you that are listening, I would say, well, you didn't try everything because you would have had your result. And Ryan, when he said that, it literally woke me up out of a funk that I didn't realize I was in. You see, I woke up on like, oh my God, like, oh, he's right. Like, yeah, it woke me out, because that's when I realized I had hit a level of hopelessness and became a victim, but I didn't realize it till I kind of like woke up a little bit. I'm like, oh, he's right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I didn't try everything. So I went to see his doctor, and he, talked about the brain and the nervous system, and everybody knows your brain controls everything. And, it controls, your brain sends every life through your spinal cord, out nerves to supply life to every organ. We all know that it's protected by your spine. Yes. Got that. We all pass that in science. And if there was any damage in the spine, it could affect your organs. I'm like, well, yeah, that makes sense, but I never knew about it. Like I never, it was just, I don't know. And it was a blind spot I didn't have. So the reason why you're having an issue in your life, in your health, in your relationships, in your business, in your finances, and if you're not at the point where you want to be yet, there's a blind spot. And the blind spot is not your fault. You know why? Because you don't know it's there. So therefore, you don't know what to target. And so when I went back and I looked at pictures of my spine that no one took, my lower spine was absolutely trashed and damaged, yet I never had a back pain, right? So it wasn't just a back pain thing. It was just my spine was damaged, didn't feel it, but those nerve roots were shutting off life to my digestive system. And that was a blind spot. I'm like, well, there it is. I can't deny it. That was it. And then here's another factor, because, here's the best way I could say it, Ryan. If anybody's going through a tough time right now, I always tell them when I coach people, be really, really sensitive to the people, to the books, with the books that you're reading, to the music that's playing, or to the movies you're watching. Be very sensitive to things that might be said, even a line in a song. There might be this one liner that you hear that might connect, but that might speak to you in such a way, or maybe you listen right now, I'm speaking to you in such a way that it unlocks something in you to wake you up. And that wake up gives you that little piece of, whether you call it inspiration or willpower, to actually put action to help maybe pull yourself out of the apathy and indifference or hopelessness. And so when I told the doctor, I'm like, listen, when am I going to get better? Because, right, we just want to get out of our funk. We just want to be better in our finances, relationships, or health, whatever it is you're going through. And he told me this, Ryan. He literally said this to me. He had zero bedside manner. He goes, listen, see that problem? As long as you have that problem, your body's not in the environment to be able to heal itself. He goes, and he points at me, Ryan, and he goes, but when you choose to correct your problem that you have that's affecting your life and your future and your family, when you choose to correct that, then the body will be in the environment to be able to heal itself. And he's like, but I'll tell you right now, you're asking me the time and the day? He's like, that's not up to me. He goes, that's up to you. He goes, but I will tell you, you will get well if you don't quit on yourself, no matter how long it takes. And man, wow. It was the most honest answer, because every doctor was just giving me the success 101 answer, this drug, this surgery, that surgery. But this doctor literally said, when I said, when am I going to get better? Like, when are you going to save me? Right? And he literally took it, threw it back on me. He's like, you're going to save yourself. And that's why one of my greatest personal quotes to myself is, no one's coming to save you. And it sounds morbid in the beginning, but when you realize, well, wait a second, I knowingly or unknowingly got myself in this position. I had the power to get me here, so therefore I have the power to get me out of this. And it was about taking personal responsibility. I had to show up. I had to not quit on myself. So it became something where it was about me giving myself permission to help myself get out of this and not get frustrated and go through that. So I'm still skeptical, guys. I don't want you to think that, because I was skeptical, Ryan, because I didn't have momentum yet. My stepdad, he was 88 years old when he died. And I asked him, Stan, he was a Russian Jew who was persecuted, went through World War II. Lived a crazy life, amazing life, but spoke on he evangelized until he was 88. I go, what is one word of wisdom you could give me over your 88 years before he died? And he goes, and listen, you guys love this. He goes, the toughest thing in life is to make a decision. It really is, because we're so afraid of what if we make the wrong decision. And so that's why we miss out on so many opportunities. We don't go for it because we're afraid. Well, what if we don't make the decision? What if we make the wrong one? And so the only way you know if you made the right decision is when you start getting momentum, right? But I also tell you, if you made the wrong decision, you're going to learn. You're going to learn something you didn't learn before. And 3 months later, I'm still bleeding, but I was off half the meds. 5 months later, I was off all the meds. And then 7 months later, the blood had stopped and my body had healed itself from an incurable terminal disease called ulcerative colitis. So as the momentum happened, so as the wins started coming, as I started recognizing the wins, hey, I'm going to the bathroom 10 times today, not 15 times. So as the wins started piling up, well, really, Ryan, what it was is I was able to see the wins that were happening daily, where sometimes when you're in that poverty, scarcity, victim mentality. Even though there's wins through the day, you don't even see them. So I was able to see little wins, and those little wins started to snowball and gain momentum and juggernaut into I'm winning, and then so the process of sticking to it is really what started to build that confidence. And I wasn't super confident, but it was enough to know that I was going in the right direction. And that was 16, 17 years ago.
So to recap for the listeners, you're down and out. You're at your lowest point, feeling like all hope is lost. This was a professor, a former professor that had come in and
Yeah.
to see you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
He just says, "Hey, listen," like he knew something. That's why he had the intuition. That's like, "Hey, I'm just gonna let this kid know something," and then it's up to me to do it. It's so funny you say that, Ryan. Like someone the other day said, "Well, aren't you glad that your anatomy teacher came and saved your life?" And I immediately stopped him like, he didn't save my life. I go, I saved my own life. Because whether my anatomy teacher said something, whether that doctor showed me my problems, ultimately I had to do something about it. It wasn't them. They showed me, they gave me some information I didn't know before, but ultimately, I had to save my life. And I could sit here confidently say, like, no one saved me but me. And I believe if most people realize, wait a second, no one's coming to save me. I'm the only one that's able to save myself out of this problem or out of this situation. The amount of resourcefulness and self-fortitude and self-esteem that creates in you is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I think that, and I've been here too, when we're really down and out, or we lose that hopelessness or feel that hopelessness, it's almost like we kind of shut everybody out. Maybe because we feel let down because we've been expecting other people to solve our problems, which I think touches to the point that you're making, but also just kind of like shut out from being open. I love what you're talking about with a line in a song or whatever the case may be, a poem or a book you read or something of that nature, where it can take just that one glimpse, that one insight, followed by what you talk about, which is that action, and then having the self-awareness to say, you know what, I need to take action because nothing is going to change unless I start that action, which in your case was then obviously going and getting on the right health and wellness plan. So out of curiosity, what was the issue that was going on with your spinal cord? Was it herniated discs, or share with the listeners what it was, the root problem?
Right. So structure follows function. Function follows structure. So your spine has to be straight up and down from front to back. I think we all know that. And my lower spine, instead of it being 0 degrees, it was 20 degrees off. So you had this huge, almost like upside down question mark in my lower spine. And that put stress and irritation on the spinal cord and nerves. And once that starts to happen, think of a dimmer switch. So your brain, everybody's brain has 100% health. Every organ of your body was created by the information in your brain. We fail to realize that. Like when we went from 2 cells to 70 trillion cells in 9 months, and there's organs there, like there was an intelligence that created that, and we were distracted that same intelligence is in your brain. Like nothing happened when you were born. That same intelligence is still in your brain. So the information that created your body literally is inside your brain. So that's always 100%. But if the information is like a dam on the river, or if there's like a dimmer switch to that area, see, the nervous system works off, we talked about vibrations and frequency. It's mental impulses. It's not electricity only, it's mental impulses. It's an intelligent, packet of information, of vibration, of frequency. So if that gets it, just like a guitar, if the frequency is off or if the radio station is off, you don't get a proper clear signal. That's what happens to the organs of the body. And when there's a lack of health or a lack of that information, that's what disease is. It's a lack of something. So my issue that's why I don't say it's a disease. A disease isn't really anything, guys. It's a lack of something. So it was a lack of health and function to those areas of the body. So once we corrected the area, like braces correcting teeth through adjustments and rehab, my body was able to get better, not perfect, just better information to those areas once again, so those areas could then become as close to normal as they're supposed to be. And that's what health. Remember, health is your natural state of well-being. It's always that's your natural state. You don't have to fight for it. That's normal. Sickness and disease is the absence of that. So it was about returning that. And Ryan, the cool thing about it is, so I go through this experience. I go to a chiropractor that I never would have thought of, right? So after that, I'm like, man, I went through this experience. It changed my life. And this health experience, this tragedy I went through that seemed like a tragedy was my greatest teacher because now it led me to my purpose. So I went back to school. I went to graduate school. I got my doctorate in that. And in 2005, I opened up my office in Houston, Texas, and where I never would have ended up. And we became the largest clinic in my profession's history, seeing over 2,800 people per week. We were 28 times the size of any average of any other office in my industry, and I could speak to that. So you see, why was I 28x, Ryan? It's because I found something that I had an experience in. So because I had an experience in it, wasn't just something I read in a book. I didn't get a job. I did something that I actually physically experienced, because words don't teach, guys. Experience does. And I was able now, I believe when I was able to stand in front of a person who's going through any type of health issue, I literally was able to look at them with empathy and say, me too. I get it. I know where you've been. And I think the congruency of what I went through, and the ability to tell my story, because I built my entire practice not by ads, not by marketing, but literally getting in front of as many people as possible, because my vehicle is speaking in video. And we absolutely changed in the lives of so many people around the world. But Ryan, it never would have happened if you told me, "Hey, Chris, when did you want to be a chiropractor?" I'm like, it wouldn't even been 10,000th on my list. But that experience, the unknown, guys, you see what I'm talking about? The unknown, what you're going through, when you could say, well, wow, it really sucks right now, but there is an unknown here. There's a learning experience here. I'm learning what I don't want, because that's clarifying what I do want. And when you realize that, what you may be going through could be leading you to something that your experience of that something is really what brings a lot of value to people, to give them hope. Because Ryan, a lot of times I believe when people come in hopeless, see, I was hopeless too. But sometimes people, what I like to say is people borrow my confidence that they could heal and get well until they get their confidence up,
Yeah, sometimes you have to be willing to accept somebody else's belief in yourself, even if it's temporarily, just until you can build it on your own. Yeah, absolutely.
So true. Isn't that good, man? It's like, so that's why I love what you're doing, Ryan, because when you get out there and you speak truth in people, I'm sure a lot of people listen to this podcast or your podcast and they're having a down moment. And that's why I want to acknowledge you, knowing that even if they listen to that interview of yours 10 years from now, it just, like I said, you may be that voice, or that interview might be that voice, or that podcast that they happen to stumble upon might be the voice in that moment, in that time, that changes everything. It gives them, maybe they're here like, well, he believes I can do it. And it might be just the amount to get the wheels turning, just a little bit. And then from there, it starts to build momentum. And we're always building momentum. We're never stagnant. That's a great thing. If you're listening right now and you think you're stuck, you're not stuck. That's an illusion. You're always moving in a direction. I just want you to know that. So you're never stuck. That would be great for a lot of people if you could just stay the same. No, you're not. You're going in one direction or the other. So it's really up to you to determine that direction. And it's okay if you're rampaging in a negative fashion. I get it. Like, it's not, when you're going through a tough time, it's not easy to say, hey, I'm going to think positive thoughts. Affirmations are going to fall stale because it's just words. It's like a spell. But it's going through something and literally saying, what's the next logical step I could do? What's the next logical thing I could do? Not, like, I don't even focus on the dream. What's the next logical thing to get me moving in a better direction?
Boy, so powerful. This is even better than where I could have imagined that this conversation was going to go. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is somebody that, I mean, it can't get much lower than low. It sounds like it was pretty much your rock bottom at that point. And now you're able to look back and say, this happened for me, not to me. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this crazy journey that brought me to this point. So it's just so incredible. Share with the listeners maybe they haven't gone through, or maybe they aren't currently going through something that's health related, but maybe it's something emotional or spiritual. I think that I love what you talk about when you say disease is a lack of. So share with the listeners maybe another aspect in your life, whether it was emotional or spiritual or professional, where you said, okay, let me take my lesson that I learned from my health, lack of, and how you were able to bridge that gap to, kind of get back onto that successful track.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And we always have like, you don't have to have my story. Like if someone's listening, I tell people, and the reason why I took a couple sidebars and explained the principles is because I was so damn stubborn that I needed to run into a brick wall at 100 miles an hour to wake me up. You see, so my crisis or my experience was a wake up call. Now, if I was, if like you don't need that story. So please, you don't need this conquering story to become successful or to have a great marriage or to have a great business or be financially well off. Like you don't need that. And the reason why you hear a lot of people, oh, they have great stories and they were successful, but they also made a lot of good decisions and they also learned from a lot of bad decisions. But you don't need that. I just want to tell people you don't need the story. But you understand when I went through a health issue, I'm great that you said like health affected me emotionally and spiritually and financially. So it's every area of your life affects every area of your life. And whether it be bodybuilding or like my dad saying it's the end result that counts, or being scared and just kind of riding through the fear and seeing how things actually like turn out right. I think a lot of times when you're scared, we tend to make decisions out of haste. And sometimes all you need to do is wait it out. Seriously. Like for me, listen to this. If I went for the surgery, and this is what I want everybody to get. If I went for the surgery, what would have happened? I probably would have died. I wouldn't have been, or I would have been have this colostomy bag that's irreversible. I would have been under medical debt and Medicare for the rest of my life. I would have been on Medicaid. I would have totally put on the garment that the sickness was my identity. So if I was still alive today, my Instagram would probably say colitis survivor. Like I actually the disease would become who I was because that's where I would find my significance as being this diseased person. My wife definitely would have been gone. She would have divorced me, not because she's a bad person, because I would have been in an emotionally bad state. I probably would have emotionally, verbally abused her because I was in such a sick, bad mode. Right? I mean, come on, guys, let's be real.
Yeah.
My kids wouldn't have been born, and I never. So the life I had today, having a healthy wife and family and kids and successful companies and businesses and the impact of people, or knowing you, Ryan, everything in there, like checked off every single box in the world. All that, all the blessings. If I made that choice of that surgery, it would have been evaporated. And here's the thing: I never would have. I wouldn't regret it. I would have nothing to regret. You know why? Because there would have been nothing to regret. See, that's what scares me when I talk and I tell my story. It's like, what if I made that hasteful decision of getting my colon removed? All this would happen. All this life that I've lived for the last 16 years would have vanished, and I wouldn't have known any better. So therefore, I couldn't regret what I've known. But how many of you listening right now, you're going to make a decision, or you're making a haste decision that could put to death the most amazing life and potential that you were really created to live. But you let someone else speak something into your life that made you settle down or get a surgery or make a bad decision out of fear, out of worry. That's what worry. That's the real root. I would say that's the rock bottom question when you just have to really answer and become self-aware of yourself. And I wish I could tell you the answer for everyone so they could have a litmus test. But the closest thing to the litmus test is really keeping your eyes and heart open. Like Ryan, you were so right. Because when you get scared, you put a shell on. You're right. You don't listen to anybody. You're scared. You're in crisis. And all those opportunities that are there to help you, to pull you out, that life or the universe or whatever you want to call it is bringing you, you're blind to because you refuse to take it or accept it. And the only thing I could say is if you're going through a tough time right now, stay open. Just think like the walls are coming in on you because you're trying to close off. Keep them open. And you know what? Just be real sensitive and self-aware to it but don't hastily go into something or do something out of fear. It'll never work out. It just scares me that I easily could have went for the surgery. Everybody was wanting me to do the surgery. And I would the people that I impacted and the amazing life I was able to live would have been gone. So I truly believe the choices you make, it almost creates parallel dimensions or parallel lives that you could have had or missed out on. So my fear for everybody when I tell my story is, my fear when I tell it is, man, what if I made the hasteful decision? What if I made that decision of getting the surgery and not not making the decision to go against what everybody else said to me, finding money where I didn't have the money. It was $6,000 to get care then, waiting week after week and still seeing blood and not sticking through to it. It's like, wow, like so much stuff. It was so easy, Ryan, there were so many times where I just could have given it up. And so when you go through that, then once you go through an experience like that, it's very humbling, but also at the same time, it builds a ton of self-awareness, self-esteem, and self-value to where it's like a David and Goliath thing. It's like, hey, I went through that. I could go through anything. And when you're listening, you might be like, well, I never had a disease like that. No, but maybe you grew up without a father, right? Maybe you grew up without a mother. Maybe you grew up and you were into drugs and you overcame that. Maybe you grew up in a bad, like everybody takes their life story for granted because you lived it. So to you, it's not that special, but it's extremely special and valuable to other people. I was blessed to have parents together when they were growing up. And that's why I said, but maybe you didn't have a dad. Maybe you didn't have a mom. Maybe they died early, like my parents. Like we all have a story. We all have value from that story. But the thing is, because it's your life, you take it for granted and you don't realize how special and how amazing it is. Every single person has something in them, in their story, in their journey of life. There's no way you got through life in any way, shape, or form without some type of story, without some type of struggle or journey. That's impossible. And if you think you had nothing in your life, well, because you're just taking your gifts, your talents, and what you actually went through for granted. And the shame of that is there's so many people that could benefit from your truth and your story and what you experience on any level whatsoever.
Yeah, 100%. Share with the listeners how, because I think you're absolutely right about the momentum. I want to dive into that there. The momentum and the self-esteem, because when we're down and out and we feel like no matter what it is we do, we either aren't moving forward as quickly as we would like, or we're moving forward and then going backwards. Share with the listeners how we can build self-esteem and build momentum even as we're working our way through those low points in our life.
Great. It's a daily audit. It's a daily audit because you got to look at every day that you're winning. Okay, here's a win. Here's a win. So first of all, the daily audit starts with you got to put you first in the morning. You got to fill the well, guys. You got to do it in the morning. I tried every different way. I've coached different people. Listen, it's got to be done. Like you need that time in the morning for you. Whatever that is it reading something? Is it exercising for you? It's doing something for you to fill up your well, because then you go out through the day and you're pouring out to everybody else. And when your well goes empty, then you go right into scarcity, worry, and poverty mentality. Like it is just not the place that you're going to create in. So you fill the well up. For that could be listening to a podcast like this that's going to help you get right. Imagine if you listen to this podcast first thing in the morning, would your day not be better? Of course it would, because you're starting off with the right direction. You're starting it like you're setting the tone of the day with something that's beneficial for you. It's helpful for you. It's giving. It's loving to you. And so you got to do that for yourself. And then I want you to take a journal and you write. You got to keep track. This gets you momentum. Keep track of all your wins. Meaning, hey, I woke up early today and I listened to a podcast. Win. I got on the treadmill. Win. I ate my meals today. Win. Everything's a win, guys. Hey, I got, like, to me, I got on this podcast today with Ryan, this interview. Dude, this is going to my journal for today. This was a win. This was a win/unknown. I even track my unknowns because, like Ryan said, I'm sorry about that. You only see the unknowns. You only see the unknowns when you look back. But when you look back enough, seeing, wow, there was a lot of unknowns there, then you definitely know the unknowns lead you to greatness. So like today was an unknown plus a win. And then all the things. So at the end of the day, you're going to be like, wow, I had like 10 wins today. So you actually start looking for the wins. It has to be a deliberate effort on your part. And that's the only way you change the direction of momentum. It's all about momentum. So how do you change momentum? You have to actually do it deliberately. So that's why it's like, well, instead of looking at all the shit that's going on, it's like, wow, I'm winning today. I'm winning today. Hey, I ate breakfast this morning. Win. I went to work. I got there on time. Win. Hey, I made a sale today. Win. Whatever that is, like, really start looking at it that you are winning. And then remember, you are what you consistently do. So when you start to see that you're consistently winning on a daily basis, it definitely changes the tide of the momentum for your life. Guaranteed. But it takes work. It takes self-awareness. It takes deliberate effort. And it's fun. It's fun to be like, hey, I won. Here's my goals for today. Here's my 2-3 things I'm going to accomplish today. And when you do them, you check them off, and it's the dopamine rush of getting a win.
Wow, that's so powerful, and I want to dive in there for the listeners. So, number one, writing down those wins, and boy, that's so powerful. And I say that to people all the time. Somebody looking to make a lifestyle change. Don't set the bar so ridiculously high that you don't hit it, and you let yourself off the hook because you said, I was never really going to get it. Set the bar low, hit it, and then raise the bar. And then the next day you hit it, and then you raise it a little higher. And that's how you can start to build some momentum versus setting the bar so gosh darn high that you don't hit it and you never thought you were going to hit it. And then you say, well, I was never going to hit it anyways. So that's the one thing. The other thing that I love is when you talk about the unknown wins and how that's really such a recipe for exponential growth, because you got your wins that you were planning on, but then you've got some other wins that you've identified that you didn't even plan on hitting, but you got them. And then it's like, wow, I had a whole lot of wins today.
Yeah, Ryan, it's like, hey, someone reached out to me yesterday morning. They want to talk about a business opportunity. I'm like, wow, I wrote that down in my unknown win. Not expecting that today. Oh, that was awesome. And whether it becomes something or it doesn't become something, it's like, but you understand, it's like, it's when you start tracking your wins and the unknowns, like today, you're going to, like, maybe you listen to this podcast. This is an unknown. You didn't even plan on it, right? I would write this down. This is an unknown. So you start to realize the more you look for the unknowns, the more they really are. Then you realize, wow, the unknowns is the recipe for my future. And then you really start seeing, like, how the people say, well, the universe is, working for you. And you're like, oh, that sounds fluky. But it's like, wow, too many, these things are really happening because I'm looking for them. You're going to get what you look for, guys. You know that. Like, the internet's the best. The best example is the internet. If I'm looking for something, I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it, whether it's negative, but also or positive. So it's like you always get what you're looking for. So why don't you start looking for the wins? And like I said, I count my wins. Like, tomorrow's my son's birthday party. So when we put win, like, it's like, I don't, because then you don't take anything for granted because everything's a win. And then you see the unknowns. Well, I had these 3 unknowns today. That's awesome. Where are these unknowns going to go? I don't know. But you know what? I know that every day life is bringing me unknowns, and in the unknowns is where the opportunity is always going to be. It's all in the unknowns, guys. Everything you want in your life is in this unknown. That's why, like, if I was to say I'm going to stick to my plan stubbornly, I might have to course correct, and that course correct could be the thing that takes me to a life and an opportunity that I never dreamed possible, but clearly I was ready for. So that's why it's you got to be deliberate, and you do that. You get in the habit of doing that, and it's so. And you know what? If you don't do it, it's here and there. It's fine. Just do it when you can. That's why I like to have a journal with me in the morning. I write down, what am I looking for today? These are my goals for today. This is my vision. I write that down. That, maybe not right before bed, because sometimes you go to sleep and you forget to do it. But maybe around in the evening, I sit down and go over the day like, wow, I hit those benchmarks. I ate right today. That's a win. I exercised today. That's a win. I got on this podcast. That's a win. Oh, and look at these 3 unknowns that happened today. I met someone today and on the bus. Whatever that is, like, you get to really look at how the day is really conspiring for you and not against you.
And how much more at peace are you with the unknown with that, oh man, I'm not sure what's going to happen if I go into that business venture. Oh man, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I've got this, and this on the horizon. I don't know. It could be putting a lot on the line. I could be risking a lot. How much easier does that become when you can self-reflect and be self-aware of how many amazing unknown wins came throughout your life, right?
It's really something that
Wow.
I was really honored to receive that. Meaning, like, I'm so glad I kind of figured that out. Like, hey, wait a second. Like the unknowns is it's where it's at. And it's scary because we don't like the unknowns. We don't like the risk. We don't like but let me tell you, you meet that person. And every story you ever hear of anybody is like, yeah, I went to this conference and I met the person that I wound up marrying. And it's just like, there's always, it's all in the unknowns. And so if it's all in the unknowns, why wouldn't we be constantly looking for the unknowns? Because every unknown is really the availability, the opportunity of change, of the different life, of the life we want, right? So it's like, if we know it happens in there, why wouldn't we be looking for it on a daily basis? Hey, I
Yeah.
met so and so today. What does that mean? I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take, but it's going to take me somewhere, right? It's going to learn. I'm going to learn something new. I'm gonna learn something. How about that? Like, hey, I met this person at a conference and they were a total jerk to me. Well, great. Well, it clarified personalities that you don't like, clarifying personalities and people that you do like. So understand that there's never a failure. There's only contrast. So I don't say there's never failure. There's contrast, because in the contrast, it really defines. Wow. Okay. I really didn't like that. So therefore, if I know I don't like that, that I know more about myself, and yes, that means that I want to ensure, which I really do want. So when you get to start to see things like that, you're not going to get there if you're looking at everything not pessimistically, but if when you start seeing that you are winning daily, and these unknowns are there for you, presenting themselves to take you on a beautiful ride wherever that might take you in your life, then you start to be at a lot more peace, for sure, Ryan. It's like,
Whew.
okay, I'm going through this. I don't know where it's going to take me, but you know what? Most of my life, I didn't know where it was going to freaking take me, and I turned out pretty good, right? I turned out,
Right.
and what you just and when you could control that, see, that's the thing. Like having a control on that, meaning that no, I'm purposely going to be looking or creating these unknowns to create a catalyst. I'm trying to use these words, a catalyst. I really think it's a catalyst for change. It's a catalyst for new opportunity. It's a catalyst for relationships and masterminding. Let me hit that real quick, Ryan. Like you and I on this interview, the reason why I say, how do you want to do the questions? When you and I are just going back and forth like this, and we're just in our own flow right now, our minds come together, and those that are listening, when our minds came together, new stuff happens. It's new, like something I couldn't think of and something you couldn't think of. But when we come together, then it creates this third mind. And that's the true reason. That's the true definition of what they call the mastermind. Masterminds today, they're really networking events, and networking is great. You need that in your life, but a true mastermind is when you have two or three or more people that could come together, and they're just the purpose is that other person in front of them succeeds in all way, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to make sure they do. And I believe with Ryan and myself on the phone, like if you're listening, this is what we're here to do. Like that's why this interview is turning out the way it is because our purpose is just for the betterment of everybody listening, and I want to see Ryan succeed in what he does and in his purpose. So that's where these unknown variables really play a huge part.
Yeah, I love it. I appreciate that, and same with you. I want to help you to change more lives, and for you and I to change lives together. And I know that when you originally reached out to me, that was the first thing that you said, and I really appreciate that. So, on that topic, what are you doing now? How are you changing lives? Talk about the Hero Project, and how I can serve you and help you in that.
Oh, I appreciate it. Well, it was like the second act. So, I found this purpose in my life, right? So I'm helping all these people, thousands of people, speaking all over the world. I checked off all the boxes, and then I'm feeling depressed and numb, and I don't know why. And it's a secret. It's a secret conversation. I can't tell anybody because it didn't make logical sense. Why am I feeling this way? I checked it off. I hit all my goals. What's going on? And then I realized that I didn't know where this depression was coming from, and I just kind of became self-aware that you know, I just want to be admired for achieving great things and doing something this world's never seen before. And that was me being honest with myself. And it felt selfish, but I was like, no, that's the reason. That's it felt right. And I searched the terms achievement, contribution, and I was going through Google and I found the definition of hero. And the definition of hero is one who is admired or idealized for courage, contribution, outrageous achievement, and nobility. It's like, wow. I go, yeah, I felt like a kid again. Like, see, like I had security in my life. I had achievements, but I didn't have the courage. I just didn't have the courage to become childlike again. Like, and that just made me feel like a kid again, creative again, imaginative again, like alive again. And it was tough when you have a $2.5–3 million business a year to walk away from that. But I know that I could either stay in the comfort and the torment of this secret identity, which I call it. And my secret identity is my identity was in being the doctor. So for me to do anything outside the health and wellness field to make an impact meant me losing my lane or leaving my lane and losing my identity. So I shrunk and I mourned, and I realized all those feelings I was having, discouraged, depressed, sleepy, numb, disengaged, they were just symptoms of what I was really going through, and I was grieving my potential. And when I say that word, grieving your potential or grieving my potential, everybody who hears that, who's going through it, I just totally put a name to what you're feeling. Everybody goes, oh my God, that is it. Because you're not depressed, but you feel depressed. It's like, I'm grieving my potential. It's that part of you, or the heroic guidance system, as I like to call it, that's telling you, Ryan or Chris, it's time to pack your bags. It's time to evolve. It's time to expand. You're not meant to stay in the same place forever. Yes, I know it's great. I know it's awesome, but it's time to expand and evolve and do something bigger and better, more impact. So I started the I Am Hero project, and it's based off my 4-part methodology called Hero Rising, where it goes over number one, it's determining, am I living a secret identity? And a secret identity is all of us are who we are today, mostly because we lived out other people's values for our lives. What our parents wanted for us, what our teachers, what our preachers, what our religions, what our dogmas, what the media wanted. Like, we literally, for the first half of our lives, we're trying to live up to other people's values, never even taking the time to say, well, what are my values that I learned? What are my truths that I discovered on my own? So here we're a counterfeit version of everybody else. That's your secret identity. It's a less than watered down version of your truth. And then when you realize, okay, all right, I am living this secret identity. You're right. That's that feeling. Then we need to embrace the hero mindset. And the hero mindset is counterintuitive to even a lot of personal development or self-help out there, because self-help or personal development tells you you need something. You need to go to this seminar. You need something on the outside to make you better. And I'm just telling you, you just need to remember. Like, it's always been there. Like when you were a kid, just think, when everybody listening, when you were a child, you were confident, you had ego, you had pride, you were relentless, you were a closer, you were imaginative, you wanted to play, you questioned limitations, you lived in the present. I mean, you were loving, you were forgiving, you were confident. And the number one question you always asked was why? Because you know what? You were always looking for your truth. When I tell my, hey, it's 8 o'clock, time to go to bed, they're like, why? I'm not tired. I'm like, well, I mean, I guess that's what my mom told me to do. Like, so I realized that what happened when we were children, it was imprisoned in us through life, through relationships, through belief systems. So it's about remembering your purpose. Like, everybody's got it. It's remembering. So I tell people, remember it. So you embrace the hero mindset, and then you maximize your superpowers. Remember I said how many of you take your superpowers for granted because they're easy, or they come naturally to you, or you have a knack for something that is very difficult for somebody else. So it's embracing the things that come naturally to you, that you love to do, that you wouldn't even, most of you wouldn't even want to get paid for, because that's how much you love to do it. It gives you energy. And then we move into choosing your vehicle. My vehicle is speaking. Ryan is really good at speaking. I would say it's also voice, podcasting, and also video. So you find the vehicle to get your message out that you like to do. Like, I'm not a writer, I'm a speaker, but you find that vehicle to get that message out. And then here's the thing that makes it different. You got to monetize your message for the survival of your legacy. We want to be able to do what we love to do and also get paid for it. And that's, again, where personal development, they get you excited. We get really excited. We're inspired. We're going to go out and change the world. I know what I love to do now. But then the question is, well, how am I going to get paid for it? Or how am I going to be able to make a living? How can I do what I love to do that I would do for free, yet be very okay with having an exchange of value? And that's what I help people do, because these fears and fogs get in the way, Ryan. And a fear fog is this. I know from this interview, someone's inspired and someone's motivated and you're ready to take on the world. But within a matter of minutes after you stop listening to us right now, all your fears and your fogs will start to set in. That's that secret identity fighting for its life. You're going to think of the things you don't know how to do. I don't know how to do a Facebook ad. I don't know how to build a website. You're going to think of all the reasons why that you can't do it. And so my answer to you is, then we team up with other superheroes, such as yourself, that has qualities and gifts that you take for granted that someone else sees as massive value, and you work together. You know, you're not going to get where you want to be without the help of other amazing heroes and superpowers that other people have. It's not your job to know it all. It's your job. If you want to get there fast, if you want to get there quick, if you want to cut down that learning curve, you team up with other people who are strong in your weak areas, and then you're able to stay in your lane and go. And that's the I Am Hero project. And I do have a gift for you guys at the end. I'll let you know. It's called My Hero Secret Sauce. It's a lot of the principles that you could apply to your life every day to start winning very quickly. And if it's okay, Ryan, I'll share it with everybody at the end. So I could get them winning today as soon as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to touch on one thing, what you were talking about when we were talking about disease and how it's really a lack of, and then when you were speaking about when we're children and something similar, almost kind of like, man, what, maybe it's not what we lack, or maybe it's also what we had that we've just let go of. Like that deep inside of us, we know it's there and we just kind of let it go, and we need to just stick our arm out there and get that self-confidence and take that action and grab those skills, grab that confidence and bring it back inside of us so that we can use it to manifest all of the greatness that we have inside of us.
Yeah, it is. It's allowing and giving yourself permission. Because you're right. It's a lot. It's like a lot of the issues that we're going through today. It's because we're not recognizing the hero that we always were. And what I mean, the hero is like, that's what I mean. It's that true, authentic version of you. You just believe in a stupid story from somebody else, or you're comparing yourself. You're coveting yourself to other people. It's like, why would you compare yourself to somebody else? That's their life. Like you'll never get to where you want to be if you're trying to live in someone else's shoes. So you're right, and it's a principle universally that it's the lack of something. It's the lack of your truth. It's like you're like all those characteristics I said when you were a child. That's your true natural state. Just like health is your true natural state. So any disease or issue is a lack of that. Any characteristic trait of confidence, self-esteem, love, forgiveness, imagination, creativity, pride and ego, which is good, guys, in a good way. Like all these beautiful things, closers. My kids are closers. They have closed me 100% of the time. And my oldest son, 12 years in a row, he has not lost a sale on me, ever. So it's like, what happens? We were all there. We all had it. So that is, once you realize that is your natural state, that was who you are. That's who you still are. But now it's like, but am I going to give myself permission?
Yeah.
Am I going to allow that?
Boy, that's so powerful. And I'll share with the listeners. I was thinking just the other day, boy, this is crazy. I was thinking just the other day, and I know there's probably listeners out there that are, maybe there was a point in time in their life when they were very successful, or there was a part of their time in their life where everything was just kind of hitting on all cylinders, and then something happens, right? And we didn't lose it altogether, but maybe we just kind of let go of it for a little bit. And sometimes that means taking a long, hard look in the mirror and saying, man, why did I let it go? Where did I let it go? And what action do I have to take to get it back?
And you absolutely nailed my purpose right now. And your purpose evolves. Like my purpose was to lead people towards fulfilled lives through the God-given principles of healthy living. That was my purpose. And it evolved into I resurrect here, like exactly the statement you said. Because someone is like, well, how do I do that? It's getting with people such as myself or a coach that could take them through a process in a system that has no judgment. And like before this interview, before anytime I talk to someone or before I create anything, I always realize, listen, there's no right, there's no wrong, there's no good, there's no evil, there's no judgment, there's no guilt, there's no shame. And if we could get into that place where, because that's what's keeping us the way we are, we feel guilty, we feel judgment, we feel there's right, there's wrong, there's good, there's like, so all these things are the things that hold that back. And so when we could release all that and knowing that, like, I know, Ryan, I feel very comfortable. Like, I know in front of you, I know you're not judging me. And so when I'm in that area, when I'm in that space, that safe space, that's the only place I could allow who I really was to come out authentically. So, and that's the whole entire, that is really the deep core value of the I Am Hero Project, is to lead that person as a guide. As the guide, I can't make you fly, but I could guide you there, and you do. And you basically, like I said, you do the work yourself by what? It's not about discovering; it's about rediscovering. It's not about attaining; it's about reattaining. It's all reattaining, rediscovery. It's nothing now. You don't need anything on the outside; it's all there. But you might need a guide to help you see it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this conversation, I knew it was going to be dynamite. I really didn't think that it was going to be at this level, and I'm super excited. I'm sure the listeners are really going to be able to take away a lot. Listeners, hear the podcast. I love it. I want to connect with Dr. Zaino. How do they get in touch with you, and how can they start their hero's journey?
Well, my gift for you guys is called the Hero Secret Sauce. And these are, 5 main characteristics I was able to distill down to get you winning in really any area of your life. And so all you have to do, you go to iamhero.com. It's iamhero.com/secret. And you'll get, I got a couple videos there for you and some PDFs and some little worksheets. And it's great stuff. That'll at least get some momentum going. All right. And then to keep this conversation going, probably the best place. I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube, and I'm on Instagram. And probably I'm more active on Instagram, just on that platform right now. So just see, on Instagram, it's at Dr. Zaino, DrZaino. And I post content there every single day. I do lives there every single day. And I answer all my messages for you. So like when you message me, that's me answering. If you put a comment, that's me answering that comment. That's very valuable to me, is that I'm able to connect with you guys and we keep the conversation going. Because I'm very respectful, because I know it's your time. And I know, like I said, time's your greatest commodity. You can't make more of it. So if you took the time to look at something at my feed, I want to make sure that everything you see is going to help move you forward or help you gain momentum or help pull you out of your current situation in some way, shape, or form. So you know that there's not one thing that I put out for you that's gonna hold you back. It's only gonna be for your gain. So that's the best way to get a hold of me and keep this conversation going.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Zaino, I want to be respectful of your time. This went a little bit over where I thought we were going to be, but I'm so excited and we were rolling. So I apologize, but boy, I think we created some great content today.
No, it's great. Instead of apologizing to me, let's do a sequel in a couple months, right? Is that a deal?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
All right, good. And if anybody enjoyed this, please make sure you 5-star this interview. And any comments or anything, I'm sure Ryan will get back. And if you would like to have us together on another podcast, just please put it in the comments as well.
Absolutely. Dr. Zaino, thank you so much. And I hope you have a blessed celebration with your son tomorrow for his birthday.
Oh, I will. And thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. And I really appreciate you. Have an amazing day.
All the best. Thanks. Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to my podcast. It means the world to me. I hope that you were able to take some things away from what we discussed here so that you can apply it to your life to become healthier and happier. Remember, every single day that you have greatness within you.